Continuing with Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules from Life, this is from rule number 11. Don't bother children while they're skateboarding. This section of rule number 11 is called Career and Marriage. Marriage. If you got that reference, make sure to put the movie in the comment section. Marriage. Career and marriage. The women at female-dominated institutions of higher education are finding it increasingly difficult to arrange a dating relationship of even moderate duration. In consequence, they must settle, if inclined, for a hookup or sequential hookups. Perhaps this is a move forward in terms of sexual liberation, but I doubt it. I think it's terrible for the girls. A stable, loving relationship is highly desirable for men as well as women. For women, however, it is often what is most wanted. From 1997 to 2012, according to the Pew Research Center, the number of women aged 18 to 34 who said that a successful marriage is one of the most important things in life rose from 28 to 37%, an increase of more than 30%. The number of young men who said the same thing declined 15% over the same period, from 35 to 29%. During that time, the proportion of married people over 18, good statistics here, over 18 continued to decline, down from 3/4 in 1960 to half now. Okay, so of people over 18, it used to be 3/4 were married in 1960. Now only half are married. Finally, among never married adults aged 30 to 59, men are 3 times as likely as women to say they do not ever want to marry. 27 versus 8%. Who decided anyway that career is more important than love and family? Is working 80 hours a week at a high-end law firm truly worth the sacrifices required for that kind of success? Not in my opinion. And is it worth it? Why is it worth it? A minority of people, mostly men, who score low in the trait of agreeableness, again, are hyper-competitive and want to win at any cost. A minority will find the work intrinsically fascinating, intricately fascinating, but most aren't, and most won't, and money does not seem to improve people's lives. Once they have enough to avoid the bill collectors, furthermore, most high-performing and high-earning females have high-performing and high-earning partners, and that matters more to women. The Pew data also indicate that a spouse with a desirable job is a high priority for almost 80% of never married but marriage-seeking women, but far less for 50% of men. When they hit their 30s, most of the top-rate female lawyers bail out of their high-pressure careers. Only 15% of equity partners at the 200 biggest U.S. law firms are women. This figure hasn't changed much in the last 15 years, even though female associates and staff attorneys are plentiful. It also isn't because these law firms don't want the women to stay around and succeed. There's a chronic shortage of excellent people, regardless of sex, and law firms are desperate to retain them. The women who leave want a job and a life that allows them some time. After law school and articulating in the few years of work, they develop other interests. This is common knowledge in the big firms, although it is not something that people are comfortably articulating in public, men and women alike. I recently watched a McGill University professor, female, lecture a room full of female law partners or near partners about how lack of child care facilities and male definitions of success impeded their career progress and caused women to leave. I knew most of the women in the room. We had talked at great length. I knew they knew that none of this was all their problem. They had nannies and they could afford them. They had already outsourced all the domestic obligations and necessities. They understood as well, and perfectly well, that it was the market that defined success, not the men they worked with. If you are earning $650 an hour in Toronto as a top lawyer and your client in Japan phones you at 4 a.m. on a Sunday, you answer now. You answer now, even if you have just gone back to sleep after feeding the baby. You answer because some hyper-ambitious legal associate in New York will be happy to answer. If you don't, and that's why the market defines the word. The increasingly short supply of university-educated men poses a problem of increasing severity for women who want to marry as well as date. First, women have a strong proclivity to marry across or up the economic dominance hierarchy. They prefer a partner of equal or greater status. This holds true cross-culturally. The same does not hold, by the way, for men, who are perfectly willing to marry across or down, as the Pew data indicate. Although they show a preference for somewhat younger mates, the recent trend towards the hollowing out of the middle class has also been increasing as resource-rich women tend more and more to partner with resource-rich men. Because of this, and because of the decline in high-paying manufacturing jobs for men, 1 of 6 men are employable age is currently without work in the U.S. So, like when people tell you, "Oh, the unemployment rate is only 10%," well, actually, one in six men of unemployable age is currently without work in the U.S., according to the Pew Research data. Marriage is now something increasingly researched for the rich. I can't help finding that amusing in a blackly ironic manner. Marriage is now something increasingly reserved for the rich. I can't help find that amusing in a blackly ironic manner. The oppressive patriarchal institution of marriage has now become a luxury. Why would the rich tyrannize themselves? That's so true, you know? Poor people don't get married. Like, that's too expensive. Why do women want an employed partner and preferably one of higher status? In no small part, it's because women become more vulnerable when they have children. They need someone competent to support mother and child when that becomes necessary. It's a perfectly rational compensatory act, although it may have also have a biological basis. Why would a woman who decides to take responsibility for one or more infants want an adult to look after as well? So, the unemployed working man is an undesirable specimen, and single motherhood is an undesirable alternative. Children in father absent homes are 4 times as likely to be poor. This means their mothers are poor too. Fatherless children are as much greater risk for drug and alcohol abuse. Children living with married biological parents are less anxious, less depressed, and less delinquent than children living with one or more non biological parents. Children in single parent families are also twice as likely to commit suicide. The strong turn towards political correctness in universities has exacerbated the problem. The voices shouting against oppression have become louder, it seems, in precise proportion to how equal, even now increasingly skewed against men, the schools have become. There are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern neo-Marxists claim that Western culture, in particular, is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women and other select groups, successfully only because of that domination and exclusion. That was from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules from Life. That was from rule number 11, don't bother kids while they're skateboarding. Towards the end, he was talking about like the disciplines in universities dedicated like particularly against men, you know. I remember taking a class, it was a class on women in journalism, I think it was called. And the meanest thing that was ever said to me in my entire life was said to me on the first day of that class. And I raised my hand and just asked a simple question. And another student in the back who I never met before, never said anything before, she said something so mean to me that I experienced inattentional deafness, where I didn't even hear what the girl said until years later when I was laying in bed here in Hawaii. I was like, or I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just like, that's what she said, you know? When it actually happened, like, I guess, like, my brain was like, it was so mean that my brain was like, whoa, I didn't hear that, you know? But, like, what happened, like, right after the class, like, I was one of the only guys in the class. There was, like, one other guy. But, like, there was, like, 50, 100 people in the class. Then right after the class, a couple different girls came out to me like, I can't believe that girl said that. And then somebody else comes up, I can't believe somebody said that to you. And I was like, what? I didn't hear it. And they're like, you didn't hear? I was like, yeah, I didn't hear what they said. And they're like, oh, I'm not gonna repeat it then. And then I tried to go to the next class, but I looked. It was like an email was sent to me, and like you were dropped from this class. I was never like dropped from a class without like wanting to drop it, but like the teacher just like dropped me. Like I didn't even know they were allowed to do that. You know, I could have sued them. You know. But anyways, I'll go over what was said to me in my third book, Gonzo Oahu. But that's not going to come out for like another 5 or 10 years. So you have to wait till then. But this was Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. If you are interested in my stories, my first book is available. It's called Gonzo Education. It's the first book in a series of Gonzo books. The first book is Gonzo Education, and that's available for free on Kindle and Amazon right now. So I encourage you to go check that out. And once again, I appreciate you watching. Have a nice day.